I have to confess that you've confused me in your responses, first to the chairman and then to Senator Blackburn. I think you just said to Senator Blackburn that the Pentagon is considering sending additional troops to CENTCOM. Now, that confuses me because the Pentagon spokesperson said last night in direct response to me that the Pentagon is not considering sending additional troops to CENTCOM. So let me ask you again, is the Pentagon considering additional troops to CENTCOM?
Senator, we're always considering changes to our force posture, not only in CENTCOM, but in other...
So the Pentagon spokesperson, in responding to me last night, publicly misspoke. Is that what you're saying? Let me just read to you what she said. She said, to be clear, the reporting about the Wall Street Journal report is wrong. The U.S. is not considering sending 14,000 additional troops to the Middle East. But you just told Senator Blackburn that that is under consideration. And that was in direct response to me, so I'd like a direct answer. Are you considering it or not?
The direct answer I'd give you, Senator, is that we are always considering, and in fact, based on the threat situation in the Middle East, are watching that, and as necessary, the Secretary of Defense has told me he intends to make changes to our force posture there. With respect to that statement by the spokesperson, we have not made a decision to deploy 14,000 troops.
Well, that wasn't what she said, though. She said it's not. So you're telling me now that she misspoke. I think at this point it would be helpful to hear from the Secretary on this issue, and I'd like to hear from him today on this issue. I assume that he signed off on the official spokesperson's comments, direct public comments last night to me, which she repeated over and over again, and you've directly contradicted here this morning multiple times. So I think some clarifications in order, and I'd like to have it. I'd like to have it in public, because the Pentagon has now made multiple contradictory public statements. Can we do that? Can we get that done today?
I'll talk to the Secretary of Defense about that.
Great.
But I do want to say, Senator, I wouldn't agree with your characterization that I have directly contradicted the spokesperson.
Well, how can that be the case when she says the United States is not considering sending additional troops to the Middle East, and you just said that you are?
I believe her statement was, we're not considering sending 14,000 troops.
Right.
Example,
so wait, I'm sorry. What's your testimony then? Your testimony is different from that, because you just told Senator Blackburn that that is under consideration.
For example, Senator, there isn't some pending document with the Secretary of Defense that states deploy 14,000 troops. Do you approve, yes or no? I'm not trying to be argumentative, sir. I'm just trying to point out there's a dynamic security situation in the Middle East, and that it's a custom that we do, and we didn't do it just because of recent events, where we regularly evaluate the appropriate number of...
All right. Well, I'm hearing what you're saying, but there is a pretty direct contradiction here. You're telling me, have told Senator Blackburn that this is under consideration. The Pentagon spokesperson said last night that it's not. So I'll let you all circle up and talk to one another, and then issue a public statement today clarifying this, preferably from the Secretary. Let me ask you this. You said earlier that you have sent 14,000 troops already in the last 6 months. What have those achieved in that theater at CENTCOM?
The purpose of the deployment of those troops, sir, was to deter further Iranian aggression.
Has that worked in your estimation?
I think it has had a deterrent effect in that we have not seen those type of attacks that Iran was conducting before continue. And one of the things that we were concerned about, sir, was potential planning for attacks on American forces. And I would note we haven't had American forces attacked by the Iranians in that period to produce deaths or casualties, things of that nature. Now, I think where you're going is deterrence. Have they been dissuaded? Have they been deterred to the point where they no longer feel aggressive impulses towards the United States or have those activities? And that's where I mentioned in my testimony, we're concerned about what we're observing, about the potential for further...
Well, no, actually, what I'm wondering about is, I just am wondering what the aims of deterrence actually are, and I'm wondering about the connection to all of these troops. So 14,000 is a lot. You've said now that you're considering sending maybe many, many more. I just am wondering what it is exactly that we're aiming to deter, question number one. Question number two, what the connection is with this very large troop buildup. I don't think I understand actually what our strategy is here.
Our strategy is to seek stability, to deter further Iranian aggression.
Well, when you say stability, you mean what? Stability of the region?
For example, the absence of attacks on Americans would
Well, that's different. I mean, regional stability and the absence of an attack on American forces are two very different. I mean, what is regional stability exactly, and how would we aim to achieve that?
Well, that's been a longstanding American policy, not just of this administration, to promote stability in the Middle East. And the absence of conflict, more peaceful relations, those are forms of stability. We engage in stability assistance throughout the region. This has been something that the United States has pursued as, again, not just during this administration's longstanding objective of ours.
Well, my time has expired. I would just note that if our aim is to prevent all absence of conflict in the region, then we're going to be sending a lot more than 14 or 28 or 100,000 ground troops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.